Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Liam's Hockey, brought to you by Hosie and Brown Automotive. My dear friend Rod Brown, thank you very much. And here we are on Hockey Day in Canada, baby. Yeah, I guess I got about 100 different shirts I could have worn. Threw this one on because I'm just going to throw a hockey sweater over the top of it and go for a little skate myself over at Rockets and maybe shoot a few pucks around and get ready for some Hockey Day in action on TV, starting with Ottawa-Winnipeg in just a little while. So we'll see if the Sens can snap out of their latest slide here and take on a Winnipeg Jet team that's trying to fight for a playoff spot already here in this. Every division is going to be tooth and nail right down to the wire. So we'll talk on more on that in a second. Hockey Day in Canada, as we know, has been around for a number of years now. Brainchild of the CBC, I guess, initially, and Hockey Night in Canada with broadcasting 3 Canadian games, and that is obviously happening today. We got Ottawa-Winnipeg first, Montreal-Toronto the second game, and then who's in the nightcap? It's Calgary-Vancouver, I believe, are playing again. So I think the Oilers are sitting this one out, and if we had Quebec in, we could probably get all 4 in, right? Hopefully in the not-too-distant future. But Hockey Day in Canada is always celebrated by looking at a number of different grassroots things. I don't know necessarily what the theme is today. I'm not really going to see much until into the Senator-Winnipeg game because I said hopefully we'll be playing outdoors myself. So I'll miss the start of it and I'll miss most of what's going on. But I will say this, that it's and it's not unique to Canada as we know now. It's this is a global sport. And it may not have the wide reach of soccer, but it certainly is a global sport with many countries and many fans that love the game, and not just at the NHL level, as we've all come to know. So, but for my own little 2 cents of the world here, growing up, as I always like to say, on the Cars Road, back in the day, there's a couple memories that stand out. I was one of those kids that slept in my equipment before the 6 a.m. practice, when Dad would have to drive me to Kentville because there was no artificial ice in Osgoode yet. So we had to start each of my first few seasons as a minor hockey player in the village of Kentville. And I remember those early cold mornings and Dad driving me. I mean, we would have to leave shortly after 5 a.m. Even though I was dressed. We were leaving by 5:10 at the latest in the morning. It's pretty early to be going to play hockey. But I coached my son for 13 years, and when he was 6, we had 14 6 a.m. practices. Now, they were almost all right here in the village of Osgoode and a couple in Manotick, but still, at the same time, that's younger than when I started, and that's awful early to be playing. And I know many of you have those same experiences. But the 2 that I cherish the most, I think, when I think back and for my own hockey day and my own memories of my youth were every second year, maybe every third, at the most every third, but sometimes every second year, we'd get the early thaw. You'd get a bit of a thaw. Not quite a Chinook type of scenario that they have out west, but we'd get a thaw, and the fields, low-lying fields, we had one right across from our house, and the other one that was really low-lying was about 2 fields back of the barn towards the golf course, towards Rideau View. And it would be a thaw, so it would be water, and then would freeze. You'd get the snap freeze. It would go right back down to 30 below. And that ice would freeze. And it was just pristine. It was so pristine and so hard and so fast. And I just remember so distinctly going out skating on it, and you're making all the marks, and you're turning sharp and whatever. You're striding, and you're out there with a puck, and we'd go out there with the nets and whatever, and we'd start playing hockey. And I remember in Pee Wee in particular, which is the 11 and 12-year-old age group, and we'd have 2-hour practices on a Saturday morning in Osgoode, on 2 hours, and we'd come back, and I remember some of those times, because we all knew the thaw was on. Our fields were some of the best. Like a lot of farmers' fields were. We had a couple of good ones. And I remember about 7 or 8 of us coming back. Different age groups, too. From different practices, everybody, okay, meet at McGuire's at 1. They'd be parents dropping their kids off. We'd already been on the ice for 2 hours in an arena. Now we're grabbing my old net. Maybe somebody else would bring one. And we'd be in our boots, have a skate slung over our shoulders, and we'd walk to the back field there, the one past the barn, with our gear and everything. And we'd skate out there till dark. We'd play hockey out there till dark on the best ice you could possibly imagine. It was just an incredible memory. It really was. And when I think of Hockey Day in Canada and how much the sport has meant to me, I mean, come on, seriously. It means a lot to a lot of people, and it's been a livelihood for a lot of people, and obviously for me too. It certainly has been, let's be honest, the most significant part of my life, next to my children, has been the sport of hockey and all that it entails. And when I think of Hockey Day in Canada and how often they revert back to grassroots, that's certainly some of the earliest memories I have. So if you want to share yours on any of these threads, if you watch this at all and you want to throw down your comments, by all means. Make it from your youth, not when you were 16 or 18 or 24 or something, but if you got a memory when you were 8 or 10 or 12, like they say in the movie Stand By Me, the friends you have at 12 are the best friends you have for life. I don't necessarily agree with that per se. I've got 1,000 friends that I've made after the age of 12. But I will say this, the ones I had, and fortunately still do have, when I was 11 or 12, are very special to me because of that time period and what we did together, which was hockey. And it was either ball hockey at St. Leonard's, which we played almost nonstop in recesses and noon hours, or we had the skates on. And we weren't playing in the arena, we were playing outdoors. We just lived it, ate it, and slept it. Literally and figuratively. It was and is our sport. That's what it is in Canada for sure. That's why it's our winter national sport. We have lacrosse. Let's be honest, we all know that. It's a figurehead sport. It's a great sport. I love lacrosse. Wish I had played it as a kid, never got a chance. Love the sport. Love the physicality. Love the borderline crazy violence and everything else that comes with it, the skill. But hockey's our baby, right? We saw that with Henderson in 72. We saw it with Crosby in 2010. Two biggest moments. Canadian sports history, by far, bar none, will ever touch those two. And you got Mario and Wayne in 87 coming in a third and not far behind. And then the rest. So there you go. Little Hockey Day in Canada memory. As mentioned, this show brought to you by Hosie and Brown, as it is each and every time. Hockey, Liam's Hockey here, and the garage we'll be highlighting here in just a few minutes' time will be Maxwell's Auto Repair in Orleans. I'll be talking about my good friend Steve Maxwell just in just a few minutes as we wrap up the show. A couple of other things. Montreal on the ice tonight against Toronto. Biggest game of the year, as was their previous game against them that they lost, making them the next game against Edmonton a pretty big game, which they lost and got shut out in. And deserved to get it shut out. I know they outshot Edmonton, but a lot of things going wrong for the Habs right now. And if they were going to try and right the ship in an early going here in the season about the quarter pole, tonight's the night to try and find it within themselves to play with the desperation that some of the other teams they have been losing to in 3 out of the last 4 games are playing a little bit more desperate and a little bit more concise, getting a little bit better play from top to bottom on the ice. Canadians are failing in some things they were doing well earlier on. Notably, a consistent and concise breakout, certainly play through the neutral zone, and getting pucks on net with traffic and figuring out a way to hopefully get the power play going again, because it's been powerless and is reminiscent of what we've seen mostly with the power play in the last number of years. It was clicking pretty good, as the team was, in those first 7 or 8 games, 9 games. It's been a slide here, which I think probably most teams will experience at some point in this sprint to the finish. 56 games or as close as you're going to get to it, notwithstanding COVID implications. But the Canadians have some work to do, and Toronto's beat them twice now. They've surged ahead of them in the standings. It's not so much about catching them. It's really about staying in the top 4. All I've said all along, man, after every win was bank the points. Scratch and claw, even if you lose in OT or a shootout and get a point. But if you do get the W's, just bank them, because you're going to need them. Because everybody else is going to pick up their W's here and there. And the one thing you need to avoid is the consistent losing streak. So, Carey Price plays tonight. And the other thing I'll touch on this before I move along is the other chatter that's going on social media is, what if? What if he was to have another un-Carey-like outing, one that we've become accustomed to the last 2 or 3 years, as his numbers have dwindled and fallen? Until the bubble last year when he looked like the Carey of old instead of what he looks like now, an old Carey. So what will we get tonight? You know, the one thing about Carey over the years is this laconic, sort of laid-back approach that he's always espoused, right? He's been the guy that has said, hey, relax, you know, it produced the meme, keep calm and carry on, C-A-R-E-Y, and he says, hey, why is everybody so worked up? It's okay, we'll be there, and these sorts of things that he's famous for after some previous slides that either he or the Canadians have been on. And I've often said in the last few years since his game has depreciated is that, you know what, Carey? Maybe you need the electrodes on there, buddy, and you need to be a little bit more fired up. And you need to be out of the end of your crease, and you need to be battling, and you need to be that goalie that's winging right hands and maybe taking the odd minor, and you need to be the guy challenging the shooters, and you need to be the guy standing up. For God's sake, get off your knees, man. Down too early. That's the guy that we saw that started sliding. So, what are we going to get tonight? He's Mr. Saturday night. The stats back that up, even through the time period that his numbers have gone down. But you're playing an extremely confident Leaf team. And they are firing on 7 out of 8 cylinders right now. And having said that, here's Montreal in a game they did not deserve to win against them. Down a goal with less than 5 minutes to go. And 2 of the goals they allowed came 4-on-4. And this was with Carey not playing his best. Toronto are by no means world-class team here. They're a very good team in a very weak division. And they are gettable. Maybe not by the majority of teams in the North, certainly with any consistency, but they are gettable at any given night, and they'll take their losses. But they're going to win the majority of the games. I picked them for first. You can't do that without winning the majority of your games. And they are, I think, definitely the strongest offensive team. Notwithstanding, Montreal had that great start and was ahead of them for most of the time up until just these last few games. So the challenge for Montreal tonight is to play. This is a Game 7. This is a desperation that they need to find. They've got to refuel and get back that. It came so easy in those first few games, maybe too easy. And I'll tell you what, other than Josh Anderson and Gallagher and maybe a handful of other guys that are putting in the effort, it hasn't really been there through the lineup, and it's been a cluster, you know what, on the back end. They have Weber, Sherratt, Kulak. These guys have all been struggling during this recent little slide. So, and of course Carey, and he's in tonight. They're all in tonight. So, let's see what the boys got. There's no fans in the building. There's no one to boo and yell and scream, no matter what you do. And so just go out there, man. It's like a minor hockey tournament. Speaking of minor hockey, who was in the stands? You might have maybe 40 parents. Maybe they may have 40 parents. You know, a big crowd was, when you were a kid, was maybe 100 people. There won't even be that in the building, for maybe that, between employees and whatnot. Not even. Certainly no big cheers or whatever, except what's piped in. So, just go out and give your best effort tonight. Let's have a 60-minute effort. Do a lot of the little things right. And you should at least be standing at the end, and who knows, maybe get a W and right the ship. We'll see. A couple other things I want to talk about here before we wrap up today. Those gold helmets on Vegas were atrocious. Whoever thought of that should be, seriously, can't even say it now anymore to be politically correct, but I mean, it was one of the most asinine things I've ever seen in my life. The only people who like that are newbies, and you're probably under the age of 35, I'm guessing. I don't know of anybody that I saw on social media over the age of 35, 30, 35 that thought they looked all right. They looked cartoonish. It looked like a cartoon. It's ridiculous. And when you see the golden helmets, I mean, you think of Notre Dame and their tradition, you know, Fighting Irish, the Golden Domers. It's just, the whole thing just was such a bad look. I had to get that off my chest. I'm pretty sure, I don't know I haven't heard of one person. I mean, I'm sure there's one, and somebody maybe will comment, oh, I really like them. But I mean, I don't think any true fan that I know anyway certainly thought anything of them. They were a joke, they were a farce, they were cartoonish. I hated them. Bruins Rangers. Yesterday there were 2 NHL games. Bruins Rangers had it going on, man, in that second period. I tweeted out, anybody who wasn't watching, check it out. I know a bunch of people around here were dialed into the American Hockey League game as Laval beat the Sens farm team there, Belleville, 4-1. They're playing again, I think, this afternoon, maybe even right now, don't know. But good that the American Hockey League is going. I'm so thankful for those guys. But I was watching Boston Rangers, and that got nasty in the second period, man. There was a lot of stick work, and it led to some fights. It was really entertaining. The Bruins won 1-0 on a goal by Nick Ritchie. Kind of a cheap one, but he banged it home. You know, the puck was still loose, and he got it in, and Shesterkin, however you say his name, didn't really hold the post, and had stood up, man, as the winner. And Halak got a shutout. He played great. Rangers had some chances. Lafreniere had a real solid game. Panarin missed. He had to sit out. I think they said lower body injury, if I'm not mistaken. So they moved Lafreniere up to his line. He had a couple great chances to score. Still not quite noticeable enough. I mean, there's some things. He's going his game. Let me just put it to you this way. I think his game is just going to grow in leaps and bounds. And this kid, by the time he's 2021, is going to be going to be befitting of first overall. He won't be on Team Canada if we are able to go to the Olympics in 2022. But if there is an Olympic with NHL players in 26, he'll be on the team, or another World Cup or something in 24 or whatever. He'll be on the team. I really believe that. He will be that. He's not putting up any numbers right now to substantiate that, but mark my words, he will. I watched him as closely as I could on TV yesterday, and that was just a great hockey game. The Bruins right now, I would go so far as to say, are the best team in the NHL. They are doing a little bit smoke and mirrors type job. I mean, they've fashioned a number of comebacks in the third period. They're getting depth scoring. Obviously, the perfection line is back and rolling. They're a threat. They still look great out there. And I think the biggest thing is on D, right? They let Chara go. They took a massive PR hit for that. And they lost Torrey Krug, who's such an important part of their power play. But Charlie McAvoy's taken his game to a whole new level. And the other thing about the Bruins, like, they've got an identity that has stood the test of time. When they became the big bad Bruins, I mean, they missed the playoffs for 100 years. Then they got Bobby Orr and still missed the playoffs. Then they made the trade with Chicago and picked up Phil Esposito, and they won those 2 cups. They stayed strong for decades, really, until the early 2000s when they slipped down again, and then they rebuilt, came back, and won the 11 Cup, and they've been to 2 finals since. But they have an identity, and the identity is, if you screw with one of us, you screw with all of us. And whether it's the young kid Frederick, who fought Brendan Lemieux yesterday, or Lauzon, who fed Buszkiewicz, or whatever, or Wagner, or Miller on D. He missed I think he missed the whole year last year. I love the guy. But they just don't take any shit, we talk about it all the time. See one of your stars get hurt, wait till so-and-so plays next game, or wait till he runs into this guy, or wait till he runs into that guy. The Bruins don't wait. They don't wait. We'll take the extra penalty right now. Lauzon got an extra misconduct for whatever reason. I don't even know why. For his fight with Buszkiewicz. Who knows? Doesn't matter. First of all, you're not short-handed, but they lost his services for 15 minutes. They still won the game. It's a mentality. It has to be pervasive. You have to want to do that. You cannot let any transgression. It's so difficult for the left-wing tree huggers today and to turn the other cheek, and everybody who wants a prim and proper game and doesn't want any violence and doesn't want anything untoward, and oh my God, how could he hit me? How could he hit that man like that? That's so dirty. Oh, give me another Shirley Temple, please. I mean, you have to understand that these are alpha males, primarily in their 20s, and if they were left to their own devices, most of them would rather do this. Most, not all. So your challenge as a general manager is to put that combination together. And it's so difficult to do. It's such a tough trophy to win. That's why you see so many different teams win, and it's so hard to repeat. But if you look at a team like the Boston Bruins, they've never lost that identity. For 50 years, they've had that identity. And I'll tell you right now, they had it in the 50s as well. I won't bore you with the history. Just trust me, they did. When they became the Big Bad Bruins, when that Stanley Cup winning team in the late 60s and early 70s got put together, they have never lost that identity. Their coach, Bruce Cassidy, is not a Boston Bruin at heart. He came in to this environment. Look who their general manager is. Look who their team president is. They have an identity, and that's what I want as a fan from my team. When I see KK smoked by Dubé and nobody does anything for the 9,000th time, that's a fail. I'm sorry, but teams like that don't win Stanley Cups. If you look at the St. Louis Blues, the Washington Capitals, everybody knows what Tampa did last year after they got smoked by Columbus the year before. My God, it was the most viral video maybe in hockey history. John Tortorella, after the first period of Game 1, 2 years ago, Columbus-Tampa, saying to his team, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of on that roster? Go out there and drill every one of them in the head. And that's what they did. They ran him right out of the rink and beat him 4 straight. And Kucherov ended up getting suspended. For the first time that season, somebody gave him a shot in the head. And nobody on Tampa knew what to do. Oh my God, Jesus. Coach, they're hitting us like hard. And well, they're hitting us illegally too, Coach. And I think there should have been a penalty on that play. And a line change, please. I mean, no. They went out and got guys who said, yeah, F you, baby. Yeah, let's go. And that's the way it is with the Boston Bruins. And if you think your team's all that, and listen, when I said that about Toronto bringing in the fossils, Joe Thornton may be old, and he's out of the lineup. And I don't know what's going to happen when he gets back in full time, because they played their best hockey with him out. But Wayne Simmons was making an immediate impact. He only had a couple scraps, but believe me, anybody who's playing the game knows that he's still a force. And again, Liam, I know what you're saying. It's not about fighting. Fighting's down. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's actually creeping back up. All of these interdivision games and these home and home. St. Louis and Arizona today are playing Game 5 of 7 consecutive games against each other. I watched that game yesterday. What an incredible hockey game that was. That's one of the best games I've seen this year. St. Louis and Arizona. St. Louis got the first win. They lost the first 3 times. And it's not that both teams are out there running each other, whatever. They're just 2 good hockey teams right now and played a great game. I'm talking about the teams that win the cup, or the teams that go to the final. And there has to be a mentality on your 18 guys that are dressing that day. And yes, it's about playing the right way. And as I was just alluding to, the Montreal Canadiens doing some things wrong, this, that, and the other. They got to change things. But there's a lot of other little intricacies of the game that happen day to day that can have an immediate and positive effect if you channel those correctly. And I think for one, in Montreal with that defense all over 6'2", 6'3", I mean, they got a big bunch of bodies back there. You got Josh Anderson up front. And you got some guys who can be a little bit more physical, and I think it's a factor as well. And I've seen every team play in the NHL right now so far this year, and you got to give it up for the Boston Bruins. They've never lost their identity. By the way, St. Louis, Arizona, those first 3 games were in St. Louis, or first 4. I think the first 4 were in St. Louis, and that one yesterday was in Arizona, as is today's and the next one. And Arizona is starting, I believe, an 11-game homestand finally. And it's interesting, the 2 longest homestands in NHL history are Tampa Bay in 2011, played a 12-game homestand, and the only other team in NHL history to play 12 consecutive games on home ice was the California Golden Seals. Imagine, I think in 1976. I think technically their name had reverted back to the California Seals by that point, and then that was their final year anyway. So they went to Cleveland, became the Barons, merged with Minnesota, who became the Dallas Stars, and now you know the rest of that story. Anyway, that's that. So I don't think I had anything else. I really, Winnipeg, Ottawa today. The Sens are in tough, man. Matt Murray is out. They got to start the Hog. And I don't know. Holy cow. This guy can't find his net with a magnifying glass and GPS. I mean, this guy is in trouble. Hopefully he makes a few saves early, because the Senators are showing they've got bits and pieces that are there to compete. Certainly with anybody in this incredibly weak North Division. But right now, they're just not getting any goaltending. And there's a couple other shortcomings on the roster for sure. But, there's a lot that's looked pretty good early on here. And if they could just get some goaltending, get some traction, score a couple goals. I touched on it last game. You get a couple guys going, and then a couple guys have fallen back. But I think really today, I mean, who knows? They're going to step up and get a W again from somebody. Hey, they got Montreal coming up very soon, too. They always give the Habs hell. Well, that unfortunately, though, I think they've got the Leafs 3 games coming up here, and that could be real trouble. So this may be the game today. If you're going to steal a 3rd win of the year, maybe today. If they have an equally good first period as last time, and only this time score a couple, maybe that'll change the complexion of the game. But tell you what, with the Hog in the net there, that's a problem. That's a problem. So, time to get ready for my toast and to talk about Maxwell's Auto Repair. So this is much like Frisbee Tire, only nowhere near as long, and obviously a key client of Hosie and Brown. Maxwell's Auto Repair is also family owned and operated, and over 30 years. So I was thinking about it as I was getting ready to tee them up here, and they're on Uville Drive, 1455, I believe is the answer. I'll talk about that in a second, but I was thinking about my relationship with Rod Brown. Goes back to St. Pius. When we met in grade 9, it was 1973. We became really good friends in grade 11. 2 years later, Hosie and Brown hadn't even opened yet. So my relationship with Rod predates even the opening of Hosie and Brown. My relationship with Steve Maxwell is similar. I met Steve when he was coaching, arguably, one of, if not the greatest ball hockey team from the region of Ottawa-Carleton. They were called the Cobras. And this would have been right in and around the same time that he was starting up Maxwell's Auto Repair. And I was thinking about that last night, going, my God, I go as far back with him as when the business probably started. And if you know Orleans at all, this is in Orleans. Uville Drive is probably one of the more well-known streets in Orleans, and you can access it off Jean d'Arc or whatever. There's a couple ways, and it's in one of those sort of not a business park, but it's a sort of a strip area, and Maxwell's Auto Repair is on the south side of it. You can't miss the sign when you drive in. There's ample parking, and it's absolutely full on every single type of auto repair that you would need for a vehicle. Let's be honest. Some garages are better known for brake jobs. Some obviously for body work. Some for front ends. Some for this, that, and the other. Maxwell's is the whole kit and caboodle, A to Z. And also, as I said, this guy is hockey through and through. He's one of the assistant coaches with the Carleton Place Canadians. Are you kidding me? They've been one of the top junior teams, Tier 2 junior teams in Canada for 15 years. And Steve's been with Jason Clark and company there for a bunch of years now. And I met him 30 years ago when he was coaching ball hockey with the Cobras, and they should have won the national championship. They got ripped off. They got brutal calls, too many penalties. Dino Stoppa grabbed that guy's chain in the penalty box. It was a big fight, and I don't think they had Steve Maxwell playing. I think he broke Steve Chestnut. He broke his ankle. Best defenseman in Canada at that time in ball hockey. And this is a guy who owns this garage, Maxwell's Auto Repair, 1455 Viewville Drive, key client of Hosie and Brown, dear friend of mine. Drop in, tell him I said hi. And if you're in the Orleans area, as I say, what I will say for all of these garages going forward, give these guys an opportunity to give you an estimate, because their work is exemplary and the testimonials will back that up, and nobody stays in business for this length of time unless you're good. So that's the bottom line. So Steve Maxwell's complete vehicle repair, 1455 Viewville Drive. Another big shot of whiskey. Gonna finish up with my toast. I touched on it last show. I'm gonna toast my mother's partner, who my own father passed away over 25 years ago, and my mom, other than a couple of, you can call them dates or whatever, but didn't really do much. And then this man came into her life about 3 years ago, and his name was Howard Garrett. And my mom at the time, I believe, was about 88, and Howard was about 83. So she went for the younger man, and they met at the Manotick Legion on a Friday. They had a little lunch special in there for the seniors. My mom used to go in, and they met, and they ended up having a beautiful companionship for these last three or so years. I guess more than that maybe, but not much more. And Howard Garrett was 39 years Canadian Navy, okay? 39 years for this military, for the Canadian Navy. And if that doesn't deserve our thanks and respect, nothing else does. And he passed away last week. He got quite ill fairly quickly, sadly, and went downhill pretty fast. He was 86. We also should be so lucky. I'm going to toast his memory and thank him through God for the time he spent with my mom. It was second to none. It really did give her a new lease on life at an age when she definitely least expected it. And he still had his driver's license, and he would pick her up in Manotick. Sometimes they drove all the way down to the St. Lawrence. And they just watched the big ships go by in the middle of the summer. And then he would drive all the way back. And they spent countless hours together and then lived together for the last few years. So kudos to him for that. And celebrate his memory and offer up prayers and please rest in peace. Condolences to his two daughters and any extended family. Didn't really get to know too many of them, but certainly did appreciate his time that he spent with my mother. So God bless you, Howard. Rest in peace, my dear friend. And that's it for today. Everybody stay safe. Be well. G'day.